As they slowly recover from the shock of being thrown to the TARDIS floor, the Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara all start acting strangely. Unexplained events occur, and the travelers start to turn on each other as they contemplate what is happening on the TARDIS. Welcome, friends and companions. Here is Enigmatic Joker on the Random Entertainment Channel. Sci-fi and fantasy fans and all sort of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music, and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who, the best sci-fi series ever. And I'm very passionate about Doctor Who. I have a deep love for Doctor Who, and that's why I always enthusiastic to do these live streams about the Doctor. I love the Doctor very much. Yes, 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 yes. So, and today we do a first Doctor story, actually, and it's called The Edge of Destruction. So, The Edge of Destruction was the third serial of season one, Classic Who, of Doctor Who. The story is unique in the original series in that it is set entirely inside the TARDIS and it features only the regular cast members. The BBC initially committed to 4 episodes of Doctor Who. Midway through the production of Unearthly Child, this was up to 13. Together, An Unearthly Child and the Daleks only totaled 11. With a tiny budget, the Edge of Destruction was commissioned to fill the remaining 2 episodes and fill out the season. According to Verity Lambert, the first 2 series had gone over budget and the production team needed to save some money. According to David Whittaker, there simply weren't any scripts available, and it was either this script or going off the air for 2 weeks. In the end, he wrote the script in 2 days. Very quick. Narratively, the story was crucial as its events bonded the travelers so they were no longer just mismatched people forced together, but a group who could trust one another. It also offered the first hint that the Doctor's TARDIS was not his own, shown by his lack of understanding of its abilities. Finally, it was also the first instance of the Doctor name-dropping historical figures. The second episode of the serial, called The Brink of Disaster, is as far as viewers can watch the Hartnell era and the series itself from the very beginning in televised format, before running into a missing episode. The following serial, Marco Polo, remains absent in its entirety. So that's some general info of this two-part story. We will now into the plot, and as usual, I will say to you, I highly recommend you to watch this story, this two-part story first before listening to the plot. So I have to give a spoiler alert and drink some water, and then we will begin. His first Doctor story, William Hartnell. So this story is called "The Edge of Destruction," and for completeness, I will say the first episode is called "The Edge of Destruction," and the second episode of the story, "The Edge of Destruction," is called "Brink of Disaster." Okay, you understand? Okay, we will go to the Edge of Destruction. The first episode uh, is called The Edge of Destruction. Okay, perfect. So, the first Doctor, while attempting to correct the TARDIS faulty navigation circuits, causes a small explosion. The doctor, Barbara, Ian, and Susan are all rendered unconscious. Barbara is the first to recover, shortly followed by Susan, who has trouble remembering who Barbara is, where she is, and is suffering from a pain in the back of her neck. Susan suddenly realizes a doctor lying on the floor with a gash on his head and rushes to his side, followed by Barbara. Susan recovers her senses enough to retrieve a special healing bandage from the ship's first aid kit and water from the food machine for her injured grandfather. While she is away, Ian wakes up and is clearly confused. After seeing the open TARDIS doors, Susan becomes convinced that an alien presence is on board and has seized control of the ship. The TARDIS doors begins to mysteriously open and close whenever Ian moves towards them. As Susan tries to operate the controls, she suddenly faints. As the doctor regains consciousness, Barbara tends to him while Ian carries Susan to her room. There she tries to stab him with a pair of scissors, not knowing who he is, but suddenly stabs the scissors on the bed multiple times before collapsing. Later, the doctor, Barbara, and Ian discuss the situation, each alternating between clarity of mind and paranoid sniping. Susan retrieves the scissors whilst nobody is looking and returns to her room. The doctor checks the system controls with Ian's assistance, while Barbara checks on Susan. Susan becomes very suspicious of Barbara and threatens her with a pair of scissors, but Barbara is able to stop her from doing any real harm. Susan reveals that she thinks something is hiding inside the ship or inside one of them. When the doctor tries to determine their location with a view scanner, he finds only images which he recognizes as records of the TARDIS' earlier trips. The last image, a picture of planets, a solar system, and an explosion, puzzles him. When the doctor opens the TARDIS doors, but they quickly close themselves when Ian approaches them. Soon, the doctor begins to accuse his human companions of attacking him and Susan and tampering with the TARDIS controls whilst they were unconscious in an attempt to get the TARDIS back to England in 1963. Furious, Barbara refutes the doctor's suspicions with a recap of their recent adventure on Scarrow. That's with the Daleks, and where she and Ian risk their lives to save the doctor and Susan from the Daleks, and cites Ian's bravery in the Cave of Skulls. That's in the story An Unearthly Child. Her tirade is abruptly ended when she sees the cathedral clock the doctor keeps in the console room has melted, a sight which horrifies her. The travelers all check their watches and see the same has happened to their timepieces. Barbara, disturbed, takes off her watch and throws it away from her before breaking down into tears. The doctor leaves from the room during a commotion, but returns with a tray of drinks, a quote, nightcap, end quote, which he serves as a peace offering to his companions. Barbara, Susan retire to their quarters with their drinks. Ian has an argument with the doctor about how he treated Barbara, which ends with the doctor walking off. After looking in on his companions to confirm they are asleep, the doctor returns to the console. As he examines it, a pair of hands swing him around and grab him by the throat. Ooh! End of episode 1. The Brink of Disaster. Episode 2. The doctor's attacker is revealed to be Ian. A strange force has compelled him to stop the doctor from operating the TARDIS controls. But Ian recognizes the doctor and then collapses. Barbara enters the console room only to have her and Ian accused of sabotage and conspiracy by the doctor. As Barbara tries to reason with the doctor, Susan enters the room and seemingly sides with her grandfather, but then believes her teacher's innocence after the Doctor threatens to throw the humans off his ship. Barbara pleads with an unconscious Ian to help her, but when he awakes, he is dazed. The Doctor tries to go through with his plan despite Susan's protests. Suddenly, an alarm sounds and the Doctor rushes to the fault locator, which lights up, showing faults in every system. The Doctor admits that he has misjudged the pair of teachers and tells them they have to work together to get out of the danger they are in. Ship rocks, throwing everyone off balance. The Doctor realizes the TARDIS power source, located beneath the console, is trying to force its way out, and they are only minutes from destruction. Barbara deduces that the strange events are an attempt by the TARDIS itself to warn the crew that something is wrong. The Doctor lies to Susan and Barbara about the amount of time they have left, but reveals the truth to Ian, explaining that when the end comes, he doesn't want the women to know about it. The Doctor deduces that the TARDIS is heading to the beginning of the solar system. The Doctor traces the fault of the ship to a broken spring in a fast return switch, which had been stuck down, sending them further back in time than intended. The strange events the four have been experiencing, where the TARDIS attempts to warn its passengers before the ship was destroyed. Fixing the fast return switch returns everything to normal. The Doctor humbly apologizes to Ian, who accepts straight away, but Barbara needs more convincing and leaves the room. The Doctor and Ian banter before the TARDIS dematerializes and the Doctor goes to apologize to Barbara, who, who accepts his plea. Now, on amicable terms with each other, the four prepare to explore their new surroundings, this time a snowy plain. When Barbara and Susan go outside, they discover a giant footprint in the snow. And that, my friends and companions, is the end of this story, The Edge of Destruction. The third story in season 1 of Classic Who. So I will name some cast members. Now it's very easy because there are four for the Doctor with the companions, and that is Doctor Who, or the first Doctor is William Hartnell. Ian Chessington is played by William Russell. He's now at the moment 99 years old, and in the last and later this year we will become 100. Hopefully, he will reach that. William Russell, good fellow. Barbara Wright is played by Jacqueline Hill, and Susan Foreman is played by Carol N. Ford. Some world building. Three topics. First is the cultural references from the real world, and that is that the code Dr. Lance Ian was given to him by Gilbert and Sullivan. Individuals. Susan and the Doctor share a telepathic link with each other and the TARDIS. Very important to note. And third thing, influences. 3 points in that is that David Whittaker drew upon ghost stories and haunted houses. There's an influence in this time machine. And a third thing is that the claustrophobic atmosphere is reminiscent of the Outer Limits. Okay, some story notes. This is the first story and only full-length story featuring only Doctor and his companions. That's very interesting. It's the only full-length story featuring only the Doctor and his companions. Second thing is that this is the first and arguably only televised Doctor Who story in which essentially all actions takes place inside the TARDIS. Also interesting note. A third thing is that this story is also known as Inside the Spaceship, also sometimes the spaceship in the brink of disaster, is often wrongly referred to as Beyond the Sun, This was the working title of the Daleks. Fourth thing is that both episodes exist as 60 millimeters telerecordings. Um, Fifth thing is that both episodes were recovered from the negative film prints discovered at BBC Enterprises in 1978. A sixth thing is that an Arabic print of, quote, the brink of disaster, made for overseas sales to Middle Eastern countries, is also held. A seventh thing is that this story was written to make up the allotted number of episodes and meet the show's commitment to the BBC. Series initially commissioned for 30 episodes. The Earthly Child had 4 and the Daleks had 7, so an additional 2 episodes were required in case the show should be cancelled at this point. Indeed, during pre-production on Earthly Child, Donald Weatherstock of the BBC did in fact cancel the series with The Brink of Disaster, earmarked as the final episode as a result, but he later relented. Yeah. Um, Some of the music from the story is released as Doctor Who at the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, Volume 1, in the early years 1963 to 1969. Another thing is that this was one of the stories selected to be shown as part of BSB's Doctor Who weekend in September 1990. The episodes were shown in the wrong order, but were repeated in a correct sequence later that weekend. Another thing is that this story marks the first time the Doctor indicates on screen that his TARDIS might be sentient. Though in our early child, Ian had at one point exclaims, "It's alive!" when he first touches its exterior. There's nothing to indicate that the Doctor himself isn't aware of the TARDIS matrix being alive. But as the series progresses, more clues are given to the viewer, with the third Doctor, John Pertwee, stating at one point that the TARDIS is alive. A full indication of this for viewers does not occur until the Doctor's wife. It's with 11 Dr. Matt Smith. When the conscious entity within TARDIS assumes a host body and speaks to the Doctor directly, confirming to viewers her sentience. The Doctor is already aware of this, but up to that story, as I had assumed, it would be impossible to communicate in traditional fashion with his TARDIS. Another thing is that Verity Lambert had to write a letter of apology after BBC's children department made it known they felt it was an unwise decision to show Susan acting out violently with a pair of scissors. Another thing is that the director originally assigned to the serial was Paddy Russell, one of the first female directors at the BBC. Russell was not available for the studio dates, however, and associate producer Mervyn Pinfield was suggested as her replacement. Another thing is that William Hartnell decided to play a joke on the cast, who often teased him when he messed up his lines. During one take, when he was supposed to say the fault locator, he instead said the fornicator. This incident was dramatized in An Adventure in Space and Time, though it does not present it as an intentional humorous occurrence. Another thing is that during recording, slight changes were made to the adventure's climax, having Barbara alone deducing that the TARDIS was trying to communicate with its passengers, whereas originally this achievement was shared with Ian. In rehearsals, the resolution to the crisis was made more exciting. The script had simply described the Doctor flipping the fast return switch to save the TARDIS. Another note is that this is first of very few TV stories in which no characters die or are destroyed, though no characters outside the main cast appear. Another story note is that this is the first story to not feature a main antagonist of any kind. The closest this story has of a villain is Susan and the Doctor themselves. Another thing is that this remains the cheapest Doctor Who story ever made, coming in at uh, £2,500. Another thing is that William Hartnell initially complained about the script due to the number of lines, while Karen Ann Ford was skeptical of the characters appearing mad without reason. Conversely, Jacqueline Hill and William Russell appreciated the chance to explore their characters in more depth. Very important. The fast return switch label on the TARDIS console appears to be written in felt tip pen. Exactly why was done is uncertain. Raymond Cusick guesses that it was written during rehearsals as a guide, while Verity Lambert surmises that it may have been written also that William Hartnell could find the switch during recording. Both agree that the label was probably never intended to be seen on screen. Carol Ann Ford states that both she and Hartnell labeled the controls on the TARDIS control panel during rehearsal and assumed the labels would be removed before production. Another thing is that to avoid complication with the Writers Guild, Dave Whittaker only received writers credit for the serial, omitting his usual credit of story editor. Another thing is that the music was selected from a range of sample mood music from library discs due to budgetary constraints. Another thing is that while not valid source for this wiki, Doctor Who role-playing game provides an explanation for Ian only sensing a single heartbeat from the unconscious Doctor. The first Doctor has the trait faulty heart, which on a bed failure results in unconsciousness for a number of minutes with only a single heart beating. And the last story note is that this is the only serial released on DVD from the show's original run to not have a commentary of any sorts attached. And the last thing I want to talk about is the continuity, because stories and episodes in Doctor Who are to some extent related and linked and referenced to each other. So 4 points is that first thing is that the travelers reference their first adventure together. That is TV story on an earthly child. Second thing, the Daleks and Skara are mentioned. That is TV story The Daleks. Third thing is that Susan reminds the Doctor of their visit to Quinnis in the fourth universe, during which they almost lost the TARDIS before traveling to London in 1963. There's an audio story, Quinnis. And fourth thing is that while Ian and Barbara were aboard the TARDIS, Susan slept in a communal room in order to be more sociable. There's a link to Pro's the Rack and Bone Man's story. So, and that, my friends, is the story, The Edge of Destruction, the third story in season 1 of Classic Who. I hope you enjoyed this video. Put your comments on this video, like and subscribe. And for now, I will say to you all, I have a Discord server that's called Random Entertainment Channel Tech Doctor Who. And you'll find me very quick because I bump the server regularly. So if you want to contact me, you can contact me via YouTube. Put your comment under the video, or you can send me a message via Discord server. Discord server Random Entertainment Channel, and you will find me and you can send me a message. That's the ways you can contact me. So, okay, cheers, mate, and have lots of fun. You host Enigmatic Joker. Oh, see you. Bye bye.